Hey everybody, what's going on? Dace here, and today I'm joined by Jermanator for yet another awesome episode of Meet the Player. I love doing these, and that's why for me they're awesome because one of the most exciting things is just getting to know how people got into this genre, just what makes them tick, like what connects them to these incredible experiences that we kind of just crack into when we play these games. So, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm coming off of a few pretty solid shmup victories, I'd call them, and a pretty good week at work in general. And I think everything's coming together pretty nice right now. It's good Friday.
Yeah, awesome. Feel free to share, yeah, what you've recently banged out in terms of,
So,
yeah, shmups.
so my most recent clear was an intense 1cc of Gunvein using the Type C ship. Um, that I actually made like a video series about it because I think that has been like the most external struggle I've ever had with a shmup that wasn't related to the game.
Hmm.
And just like the amount of things that can kind of leak into your brain along the way. So
Yeah,
it was actually a proper journey like that.
nice.
It turned into something great. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm pretty hype about that one.
yeah, that's awesome. And what's great about that is like when you go through something like that, and you can take a step back and see the things you've learned. You can make those conscious realizations, and that's when you know, like, wow, I'm actually growing within these experiences within this genre. And that's only the beginning, and it's always really cool just being able to see those moments where certain things click, or you just know, like, oh wow, stuff's happening here. It's not just like playing a game, clearing it. It's like there's more going on much deeper levels. So yeah, that's really exciting stuff.
Well, yeah, I think leading out of it, it was actually the first time that I've done a proper like novice mode or yeah, a novice mode clear
Hmm.
before I did an arcade clear.
Yeah.
Like every other time that I've done a clear, I just jumped straight into the arcade mode.
Hmm.
And so I actually got to see like the benefits of seeing like the stripped down version of a game compared to what like the author's intent was.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think one thing we could probably just start off with, now that we have like your recent stuff kind of touched on, is how did you come across the genre? Like, what was your first exposure? Whether it was like you stumbled upon a game and played it, or you saw someone else playing it. Like, what was it, and how did you react to seeing that first footage?
So it was kind of a three-way tie of things that were going on. Number one was I had recently built a hitbox controller.
Nice.
And I like built it from scratch. I did like the soldering, I did like everything that I could
Wow.
possibly do to make this controller. So it was a really like intimate connection with
Hmm.
this piece of technology. Second is I don't know if you've ever played on a hitbox.
No, I haven't.
They're not like anything you've ever
Yeah,
used.
the closest I have a snack box micro, and that's obviously very tiny compared to a hitbox, but yeah.
I would say the layout that I have is actually about the same compactness
Oh,
of a
interesting.
snack box, but
Okay.
it's just got a lot more wrist space.
Yeah, certainly.
But so I had built that controller and I needed a way to rewire my hands because I'm a longtime fighting game player. Like above all else, I've been a fighting game player. I continue to be a fighting game player. Um, but I needed a way to learn this controller. So that's point number one. Point number two is um, yeah, I'm pretty sure you know his channel. Desmaku
Yeah.
at the time was Desmond KOF when I was watching his channel initially. I found his channel because I was looking for King of Fighters streams. And, you know, I just became a fan of the channel. I was watching the streams all the time, and he started going down the shmup journey.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I realized like the game that I was watching that like caught my attention from him was Gunvein.
Yeah, nice.
Hilarious, right?
Yeah.
Like and it was showing off the because like the tutorial in Gunvein talks about like macro and it talks about micro. And as somebody who loves like mechanics but also loves like a more of a genre, not a genre, more of like a theme that you can start to attach to
Hmm.
when you're learning stuff, like that started to tickle my brain, right? So
Nice.
that happened, the controller happened, and then number three was the Arcade Archives release of Alpha Mission 2 on the Switch.
Nice.
I just stumbled across it one day. My hitbox that I had create and that I built was Switch compatible.
Hmm.
So I just bought it on a whim as $8. I mean, I'm not losing anything out on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I've seen Desmaku play this or these types of games. I've got this new controller. Let's just dive in. But that wasn't my first like trip into doing 1cc's.
Hmm.
Like I knew about 1cc's before I got to the shmup genre
Yeah.
because I 1cc'd Final Fight, the like arcade
Nice.
Final Fight. Um, and so I kind of had this notion that like, oh, you can approach these games from the perspective of like tackling them, like
Hmm.
really taking them on. And so it was just all of these converging points and it just leapt right off. I'm sorry, excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, so it was just all of those things converging. It just was the perfect launch pad for me to jump into the genre. But before that, I can't really think of a come up that I ever acknowledged beyond like, oh, those are the games that look like Raiden.
Yeah.
Before that, it was nothing. They like didn't really exist to me.
Yeah, fair enough. And so, yeah, like in ways, like was there one, like I get that like the three things brought you together, but was there like one thing, like once you started playing some of these games a little bit, was there one thing that really just spoke to you like, wow, this is why I like these now, or this is what's kind of building the snowball effect into the genre more? Because everyone always has like a different thing that just gets them really hooked and just pulls them deeper. And I always love hearing what that is for each person I talk to.
For me, it was when my hands started doing the dance without me.
Yeah.
So Alpha Mission 2, super memo heavy.
Hmm.
Like it's a game that's designed to build routes in. And I, the first couple days that I spent with it, I wasn't really going too crazy with it. Like I was just trying to play it to have fun. And then one day I was like, all right, let's sit down, let's put the brain to work here. And um all of that like casual play combined with me actually focusing, like my hands were just moving out of the way of things that I didn't need to dodge anymore because I experienced them the past couple
Yeah.
times. And then I encountered something that I hadn't experienced yet. Like I was doing a really probably my best run up to that point, and um my memorization failed me, and I realized like my skills would have to kick in,
Yeah.
and I fumbled, dude. I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the skills, but I loved the first like 2 minutes of that run. It was
Hmm.
that I can remember so vividly. If just like my body just doing the dance for me is so cool. Um, and I think once I felt what it was like to just like play alongside the machine, I was there. Like that was
Yeah.
enough for me. That was the journey. That was the
Hmm.
start, and that was all I needed.
That's incredible. It's such an interesting thing to think about. Just the like when someone is first starting out. I get that like there's going to be a lot of like fumbles that you're not going to make later on in the experience because like you've played so many of the games, you just intuitively know how to kind of just improvise depending on what kind of attacks and things are going to come your way and stuff. But it's such a fantastic combination between like memorization for games that use that, of course, like have that built in to the experience, and improvisation, because like I love when, like, I'm not too big on games where it's like 100% you got to memorize everything. I'm not really so crazy about that, but it is a blast and just super engaging when you can kind of you have to apply yourself in that way, but when you do fumble or you come out of like a route because you just forgot something or whatever, it's like not like it's not all over. Like there's still that opportunity to just kind of like work with the new situation, the new information coming in, and because you're in that situation where like, okay, I've messed up, how do I get myself out of here now? Like that kind of
Mhm.
stuff is exciting too, whereas sometimes it's going to be discouraging for people. But there's really something awesome about those moments as well, or even taking hits, like because it's like, oh, well, now I need to perform better than I was if I'm gonna like make up for these slip ups and whatnot. So yeah, the whole experience can always just be like unique every time and just super refreshing. And yeah, anyway, that's my ramble about that.
It's true though. Like I like the fly ball. I don't know. I'm not a super big sports guy, but I imagine that's what it's like when like a sports play goes out of line, and that's when somebody proves that they're an athlete as opposed to just like a team player.
Yeah.
Like that's that moment, you know.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I'd like to just take a little look at maybe what some of your favorite titles are, or maybe like, are you more drawn to vertical or horizontal? Are there specific mechanics that you just really love, things you maybe don't like so much? Kind of just answer whatever you feel like, or just kind of dip into those areas if you want.
So I haven't actually played really any shmups that I didn't like things about them. I think I've got the dog mentality of just like everything makes my tail wag in a game.
Yeah.
And but my favorite mechanics in a shmup are anything that takes advantage of good positioning. So whether that be a shot type that shoots diagonally, but it's really powerful, or that's it's would be a good example. I played Androdunos on I was in a kumite, and I played Androdunos, and every single weapon type in that game is positional element of some kind. And I think that's kind of like my fighting game brain saying like, oh, it's about where you're standing. It's about where you're not. Eschatos was really big about that, of like just really taking advantage of screen positioning. And I like games that really encourage you to point blank stuff.
Oh yeah.
I want my nose to be touching the baddies,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
I want to smell you. So, and it actually kind of makes sense. Like if you look at the lineup of shmups that I've done, like I did Eschatos right after I did Alpha Mission. And that's like, it's got the shield mechanic. You're up in everybody's face. You're just like, you're bulldogging them. And then you've got, after Eschatos, I did Mushihime Sama, and that was when I was using the M power shot type. That's really conducive to point blanking.
For sure.
And then when I did Blue Revolver, the special weapon type that I was using was 100% dedicated to being an inch away from your enemy. Like I just want to be super close. I want to be up in your face.
Yeah.
So I think those are like the things that really draw me into a game. And so far, like the titles that I've played have been kind of conducive to that anyways.
Yeah. Oh man, I love it. Yeah, point blanking for me is just fantastic. The things I love, like point blanking for sure, and any time where you can have like a concentrated shot or focus shot or whatever,
Nice.
that is like one of the best inventions ever in this genre. Being able to slow your speed down, do a concentrated like stream, and just dispatch foes that much more quickly. Like it makes for such a wicked blend that you can just really start to work with, really like switching back and forth because you need to like zoom somewhere on the screen to like get to the next position. Like that's when I feel things really start moving. Whereas like with some of the older like retro shmups that didn't have that, like there are some really cool games out there, but in ways I kind of feel like sometimes like there's just something about a lot of them that don't really click for me, because it's like, okay, I'm just moving around and firing. There's not enough to work with compared to some of the games that I just really resonate with on a whole other level. So yeah, point blank, that's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
And then if I could add one more thing to like my favorite list of mechanics, I want a score system that just throws medals in my face. I don't want to see the screen for periods of time because of the amount of points that are flying at me. That's big. That's big. I want the dopamine faucet turned on.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Oh man. There's like Gigawing, when that's one of my favorites, because there are times where there are just sections of the screen gushing and gushing gold, and it's like you can't even get it all because there's so much and you got to stay focused on other things. But anytime where it's like either streams of liquid gold stars coming out or huge bursts and the whole screen is just like this blinding, dazzling mess, like it's just fantastic. So I totally hear you on that. It makes for good times. Yeah, was there anything else on that point that you want to jump into, or shall I keep
Nah,
going?
keep it rolling.
Okay. So, and you might have actually kind of touched on this when you were talking about like your intense clear of Gunvein at the start, but like what has been your biggest challenge so far? It doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, it was this game specifically, but like just something that you had to overcome either like on the inside or on the outside or whatever the case is. And what did that inspire you or bring to your attention for like what you can do in the future when these things happen again, which they of course like absolutely will.
So I started playing Battle Garega, and I was coming off of my Blue Revolver clear, and I was really super hype about my Blue Revolver clear because it felt to me like I was leveling up, and it kind of gave me that sensation of just like that no game is beyond me right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking into these like trickier shmups, more difficult shmups, and it was kind of topical on the discords that I've been hanging around that Battle Garega is just this, it's got this legendary difficulty, it's got this crazy scoring system, it's like the only game that you need to kill yourself to win. Like
Yeah.
it's you know, it had all these things lined up. I was like, I want in. And I started playing it. And this is also after I had, uploaded a couple videos. I was really proud of the past couple videos that I had put out. And so I think that my motivation for shmups had started to skew from what it was initially.
Okay.
That it was no longer about me and the game and like that process. It was like putting out something valuable, or like put out something that other people might see and go, wow, like, oh, you're
did
good at
that.
shmups.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like struggling with that, because it turned into a very like, I don't want to call it toxic because that's a bit extreme for a video game, but it was a little bit toxic in the sense that I wasn't sitting down to play Battle Garega for fun ever. I was sitting down to play Battle Garega so that I could get that clear so I could post it online. And that's probably the biggest struggle. Is I had to admit, A, Battle Garega was beyond my skill set, so admitting defeat was really tricky. But B, I had to admit to myself that I had lost my own way. I had lost my own path, and I had to get I got humbled by this game. And I would say that was like the biggest struggle I've experienced exterior to shmups. Well, within the genre, but like it wasn't specifically with the game. There's never been specifically like a difficulty within a game that like, oh, there's this one boss that I keep losing to. Like that's never been the problem. Like the loss isn't the issue. It was the lack of progress and the lack of being able to wow somebody. And yeah, I really got caught up on that, and I had to correct myself. I had to course correct myself pretty hard off of that one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's so incredibly important to just like play the things you love. Play the things that like you see it and you're like, wow, that looks amazing, and I'm enjoying it now that I'm playing it. I think in ways it's like with how many shmups are either getting like a console modern release or whatever, and new ones that are coming out, like it's easy to always want to jump on the newest thing that hits the system you're on, but I feel it's important to kind of just play the things that you actually know you want to play, because it's far too easy to just get caught up doing all of that, like whatever drops, like, oh, okay, jump this, clear it, okay, done, over with, on to the next thing. I'm very much more interested in just like, and it's certainly like I don't do this with every single game. Like sometimes it's a more casual experience, other times it is a very deep experience, but I do lean far more toward just really sinking into a game and just dissecting it, learning it, knowing it, instead of just, oh, new game, clear it, on to the next thing, or just like, oh, that was easy, okay, like, and then never think about it again. Like I don't really want that to be the relationship that I have with these games. I want to strive to always bring more meaning to each game, each relationship that I'm establishing with these games. So yeah. Where would you say you kind of sit with new releases, since I kind of just brought that topic into the picture a little bit.
Um, I I don't think I'm too caught up on like the release date of a shmup. I think it's very lucky that I started with Alpha Mission 2 actually, which
Hmm.
is I think it's 1991 release. Um, and it showed me that I the time frame of the game doesn't matter. But also I've always been into older games. I've always been into like arcade games. Well, I call them older. Just some people, it's just the games I grew up with. But like a
Yeah.
lot of these games predate me, and I I've never had an issue with the time frame of the game. I love what it's given to me. Like I mean, I can hop over. I know this isn't about shmups, but I can hop over to Final Fight and be like, I came into Final Fight super late in my life,
Yeah.
or super late in the game, so to speak. But something about how somewhat clunky but incredibly well designed the game is really stuck with me.
Hmm.
Like you had to overcome the clunk.
Yeah.
I loved that. So I don't think, I mean, the newest release that I've played, I guess, would be Gunbane. And that was, I was actually talking, the reason that I even got into that was because it was coming off of my Battle Garega defeat, if you want to call it that.
Hmm.
And I reached out to somebody who's done a Meet the Player, actually, Eric Arcade Hell.
Yeah.
I saw a video that he had posted like a replay or something on a Discord, and I just shot him a message. I was like, hey man, like, you want to play some shmup sometime? Like, we can sit
Nice.
down, get in a Discord call and chit chat. And it was really cool to like just come off of this super centered towards everybody else experience. Like I
Yeah.
want to impress other people and just like sit down and like have some fun with somebody.
Hmm.
And it was in a newer shmup. It was in some I knew barely anything about Gunbane except for that one stream that I saw Desmaku do. So it was 100% new to me, and it was just like this. We both just sat down and played mild mode for the first time, and it was just this very joyous experience. And
Nice.
I really do like the modern mechanics. Like Gunvein feels super modern, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
compared to other games, it's super small hitbox, and everything is like grazing by your face, and
Yeah.
you're able to slip through everything, and there's bombs and tons of invincibility frames, and the game makes you feel good. So I can't speak to a ton of new releases, but I can speak to the one that I've done, and I really like it.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's fantastic. Um, I don't have like an official list of questions like I sometimes do. So, but there is one thing I am kind of curious about is like with the like because I realize you haven't been playing shmups for an insanely long time or anything. What like where do you see yourself going with the genre? Like what do you like do you kind of have some idea of like okay, there are these specific titles that are like super difficult, but I know eventually I do want to work my way up to that kind of skill level? Or are there other aspects that you want to focus on, like just getting into doing more commentaries or like more content to kind of inspire other people? Or like where do you kind of see yourself sitting with things?
So when I started making any kind of content, and I even kind of want to move it away from. I think we shouldn't call it content. I think people who make shmup videos should be willing to call it like art. They should be willing to call it their work, because it
Yeah.
is so much more than something like, sure, maybe like a silly video now and then is somebody makes a funny, like, oh, this is the hardest boss ever made kind of video. But like every time that somebody takes the time to put their thoughts and their work into a video, like they've produced art and they put it out to share with the world.
Yeah.
But when I was stepping into the genre, like I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be making videos that I even like want other people to watch. I just wanted to give somebody the happenstance chance to run across my opinion as a newer player.
Yeah.
Because the first video I made was an Eschatos clear,
Hmm.
and it was my Eschatos 1cc, and I was super excited about it. And I thought that was like, as much as Alpha Mission 2 was like my first shmup, Eschatos was my first love.
Yeah. Nice.
And when I made the video about it, like I just wanted people to like, if anybody came across that video, I just wanted them to know like I'm a new dude in the game, and I jumped into an arcade mode of a game, and you can do it too. You're gonna struggle like me, but it's gonna be awesome. It's
Yeah.
gonna be worth it. Like that's all I wanted from that one video. And after I put it out and after I'd shared my thoughts, I was like, I really enjoyed this. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed
for
talking about it.
sure. Yeah.
I love gushing about the things that I
Oh
like,
my God. Yeah. I use the term content pretty loosely, but like it is like when I think about the things that I do, it's more or less like a resource or just like some way to be motivational for others, certainly, like you just mentioned, like there, like it's a great opportunity to kind of be of service and just help people realize that they can do something, or inspire them to at least give it a shot, because unless they put themselves in that situation, they'll never realize that, like, oh wow, I can actually do some of these basic things to start off with, and then when they get that taste, then it's just like, okay, wow, like they can kind of take things on their own journey from there, because they have that little motivation, and the momentum can just build from that point, and who knows what they're going to go on to do. So yeah. But yeah, your videos are fantastic. I always really enjoy listening to your commentaries. You have a super insightful and refreshing perspective. It's just always a delight. So yeah, I really appreciate the work you put into your videos. It's fantastic.
Thanks, man. I to continue though, like if I'm looking forward, I think I had the most the video I had the most fun making was my, not the clear video specifically, but the stasis field guide that I
Oh
created.
God, that was so good.
Where thanks,
Yeah.
where I like there this video didn't exist for anyone. There was nobody that had like sat down and like put in the work with stasis field in Blue Revolver. You can look it up. I think I found one other person who's even done that clear.
Yeah.
And I when I sat down and started playing Blue Revolver, it was like, whatever, whatever, whatever. And then I came across Stasis Field. I was like, whoa, this freaking weapon's sick. And I looked into it, and nobody was showing it any love. And so I was just like, okay, I think the reason people haven't done this yet is because they don't know, or they're not going to go past the learning curve of seeing how to apply it.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to skip that step for him, because I was willing to go in and do a little deep dive. And I loved jumping into this niche weapon and finding all the little tidbits about it, and then digesting it and regurgitating it as something that other people could easily consume. Like that. I mean, that's a 10-minute video that I think covers 10 hours of study that I put into it. And I loved making that. And that's the kind of direction that I would see as like the most useful videos that my channel would I'd be putting out, would be diving into the more niche aspects, maybe a niche weapon type, or maybe a certain kind of like scoring system that people aren't super familiar with. And I love learning, processing, and spitting information back out. And that's something that I think I'm pretty okay at, and I have a ton of fun with. So that's the direction I see myself going with Shmups, is like finding maybe a bit more esoteric or obscure selections, and creating something that can help other people step into it, so they don't feel like there's this huge barrier of like, what, like Giga Wing, for example. I've seen people play Giga Wing. I've never had somebody explain Giga Wing to me.
Well, if just side note, I think I did a guide video for that one where we do like a dive into like just how to approach it and all that kind of stuff. But that was a little while ago.
Mark it.
Yeah. But no, I love that you mentioned that, because I'm in the same boat. Like, as much as I enjoy doing like a different variety of things on my channel, like something that is just so truly fulfilling is when I do click with a game to such a degree where it's like I have to learn everything I possibly can, like a scientific breakdown, and just share all the info. Like, by the time you finish that video and you put it up there, you feel like you've just worked like 10 years on this masterpiece. And it's just like, here's something that is like, it can be very valuable for somebody who just wants to soak up and just go to town with it. And so, yeah, like it's really fulfilling work. Yeah, it's so good.
I think though that, so like that experience is what got me into the trapping of like feeling so bad during my time with Battle Garega, was because I got bit by the bug of like, oh, I've contributed something. Every other video I had made until that point, after I made that video and I put it out, everything else became a moot point to me, because none of them felt as valuable to me anymore. I thought like, this is work for me. This was my piece of work. And I would say that like, if somebody gets too caught up, like if somebody else, ends up in our mind state of like, oh, I want to share some information, like it's really important to remember that shmups are still like as fun as it is to sit and get scientific with them. Sometimes you got to be able to go in and blow things up and just enjoy it.
Yeah,
And it's really
absolutely.
easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah, totally.
Uh,
And I think that's where like for me, I'll use my example of gun nail, which I did last year. Like it's not like I went into that game like I knew I was gonna love it because when I saw the first screenshots, I was just like, I'm sold already. So I just knew I was gonna connect with it. But when I went into it, I wasn't thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna like do this huge project. It's like I played for quite a while, and then when you just realize that you love it, in ways the workload kind of just like it calls to you. It says like, okay, do this now. It's not like you're going in trying to force it to be something. It's just like, wow, I'm loving this and I know enough about it now. Now I'm going to really sink deeper into it. And that's when it's like tens upon tens of hours extra go into just playing the game, experiencing things, exploring as much as possible. And like, yeah, like I get not everyone's going to be into that sort of thing or really either like maybe they can't set aside the time or they're just not interested or whatever, and that's fine. But like for me, that's like one of the best times to just feel alive in a game. It's just like when you have that connection and you just go so deep into it. And
mhm.
yeah, it's like it feeds you in a way. It's like you're kind of like surrendering your time, your energy to this game, but at the same time it's like nurturing you. And it's just unless you've experienced it, like there's no way to really convey it to anybody. It's just
I
it's an
mean,
experience.
you had to feel that way with like the rolling gunner expert
Oh,
clear comment.
absolutely.
Like
Yep. Yep.
that
Yeah.
first off, that guide is sick. That's
Oh,
an
thank
amazing
you.
guide. I've never played rolling gunner. I've watched that guide like 3 times. I don't know why. I love sitting down and just hearing about the mechanics. Like I'm just that's how my brain gets tickled.
I
But like
remember I remember your comment like because in the video and I think in the comments too, I've mentioned how like there were certain sections where I kind of just sped things along for the sake of it not taking more and more months, but it could have easily been like a 9 hour video. And I remember you commenting something like, yeah, at what point does it become like a choreographed like a
mhm,
huge thing where it's not about really like the the teachings anymore. It's about like, okay, like 1 pixel over and then you have to drop down 3 pixels. And it's just like,
mhm.
yeah, there's no point at when it gets to there. But yeah, but yeah, well, thank you for the kind words. I'm stoked that you've watched it that many times. It's yeah, a lot went into that. To be honest, like that's my most played shmup of all time, and like from just specifically expert mode difficulty, I cannot tell you what percentage went into just dissecting stage 3, but like in my personal, like if I had to like name off like things that I'm proud of, um I am very proud of stage 3, like what I put together for that, because like holy smokes, that level was brutal. And getting it to a no bomb no miss like method, that was such an incredible experience. Like I got up and like each morning every day whenever I would like get around to playing it, it was just like, wow, I am so excited to like just jump in, see what I can crack wide open, see what I can like figure out, even if it's just like a tiny thing. All these little pieces start fitting into the greater picture. And for me, that is exciting stuff. And that's like just what fuels me and part of why I'm so passionate when I do have that kind of connection with a game. So I'm really glad that, yeah, it has shined through in some way that has touched you. That's really awesome. So thank you for sharing that.
I do want to round back to it like an offhand question you had
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
posed
sure.
earlier because it's to answer and it kind of connects it to you had asked like do I prefer like vertical or hori, like is there a certain style? I don't really play horizontal games, but I
Mhm.
think if I ever do jump into one, it'll probably be rolling gunner because I know that it's already something that like contains all the elements
Yeah.
because you had like made the video and like broke down like here's all these little things that are going to influence different aspects of the run, and I was just like, oh man, that's what I look for when I'm
Yeah,
playing a shmup.
yeah.
So I like that kind of stuff's really important. Yeah, I just think it's cool. I think it's awesome when people get like you know they got bit by the bug.
Yeah.
You can tell when they're talking about it. You're like, oh man, you went crazy. I bet you had a hard time not talking about random people with this. Like you know they were so hooked on it. I always get excited about that.
Yeah. And when you know, like the only thing that you're like, for me anyway, like sometimes it's a slippery slope because it's like all I want to be doing is sharing screen clips of Rolling Gunner or like always referencing Rolling Gunner when it's like, oh man, like people are going to be just like hearing me talk about this game months after, and they're probably going to be sick of it, but like whatever. It's just when it's so good, and like there's nothing more to it. You have to just surrender to how amazing something is and just let yourself gush about it because that's what it deserves.
I did. I think the only thing that I felt like the only conversational topic that I felt was important that I would want to say while I had, I guess, a platform
Yeah, for sure.
uh, was I think I brought this up to you, was like the concept of like a shmup academia was the term that I had used. But I've tweaked that since I wrote to you about that I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
man, this is something that I'd love to discuss. Is that I thought that contribution was technique, but that's wrong. That's not entirely true because and also I guess this kind of relates to another video you've done recently about 1cc commentaries, but like um, contribution in the community also involves mind state. It also involves explaining struggles because every single thing like related to getting a clear to even like making progress to making yourself better, like everything links together. It's all plugged into the same machine.
Absolutely.
And if people are like afraid of, if they felt like I did when I was trying to clear Battle Garega, like if they feel like they have to make a contribution, I think it's more important to understand what contribution really is, and that's sharing.
Yeah.
You've contributed by saying your piece. If you post a video and it's 31 minutes of gameplay and at the end you go, great game, you've done your time.
Yeah.
There's gonna be that one person, they're gonna be like, I'm kind of on the fence, and then like some person adds that one extra input of like, by the way, it's a pretty good game. You'll be like, all right, I'll try it. I think people, I always encourage people that I talk to, like, oh, dude, do a commentary. Like, if do you have a mic, do a commentary.
Yeah.
Like, talk about it. I just want to hear, man. I don't even know what you're gonna say, but like, tell me.
Well,
So I just
totally.
want,
Yeah. Totally love it. And honestly, that's like why I encourage, like in ways like I meant like any like you just said, if someone has a mic and they're able to record their runs, just like give it a shot, see what happens, because it makes for some of the best things to listen to. Just like everyone is going to have such a different experience, such a different approach, and like I could never get tired of that kind of stuff. Like it's just so exciting to me. And like even just hearing about, like even like when others like non-shmup stuff kind of like filters into the conversation, like someone saying like, oh yeah, like I'm like so busy with work, but like I got home and like that was the time it just happened. Like those details, they just add such a personal, realistic layer to the experience that like everyone can relate to, depending on like what's being mentioned. And it just, there's just something really wholesome about it. That's how I will word that.
we're just a bunch of people slapping buttons, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's good to know that other people are slapping buttons behind the screen.
Yeah, totally. Um, so I would like, with what you mentioned, I would just like to go back to the what you said about like not really playing too many Horis. What is it specifically? Because I'm the same way. Like I lean way more toward vertical, but when I do stumble upon a certain horizontal shmup, like it's just like I'm there 100%, just like anything else. But like, what is it for you that kind of like is like? Have you ever noticed a reason for why you don't really resonate with those like you do verticals?
I think it's a case of like I haven't exposed myself to enough of them to fall deep into one.
Yeah.
So like to me, I feel like I'm gonna draw with my hands. I know there's not gonna be video, but you're gonna see this. For me, playing Horis feels like I'm using like a tech deck and I'm like ollieing over bullets.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And verts feel like I'm dodging raindrops, and that just feels so much more logical to me.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels correct. And I think I think that might just be it. It might just be the feel of the dodging more than anything else. I don't think I have as much like I know a big complaint that I've heard from other people who are a bit tepid on Horis are that they feel like they can't make the lines correct. Like they can't line up the way that a shot's coming at them in the same logical way that something falling on your head would be.
Yeah, certainly.
Um, so maybe that's it. But also, I just got really excited the first time that I had a rotating monitor that I could play a Tate game proper. And
Mhm.
it was just like this incredibly intimate experience. Like it
Yeah.
was like, whoa, this is the most I've ever been like embraced by a shmup. Like it's got its arms on my shoulders. I feel like it's trying to lean in for a kiss or something. And I,
Yeah.
I got really, I just loved it, like, and I think I just maybe I don't want to unrotate my monitor.
Yeah. Well, that's fair too. Uh, it's funny because, well, yeah, you can see it. The audience won't, but like I have this huge TV right beside me that I play on, and I would love to find some way to just like rotate it so that I can just be this giant like IMAX in front of me just for vertical shmups. But I'm not sure if that's so practical right now. But yeah.
It is funny though, every vertical or like every vertical shmup that I've ever actually cleared, I never cleared properly in Tate. Like
Mhm.
I was always using like a 4:3 or like a widescreen monitor, and then I was
Yep.
playing with a 3:4 resolution with the bars on the side.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I'm really super like when I do end up getting down into like the grind mode, 99% of the time I am sitting on the couch next to my girlfriend. We're watching something on TV and like we're using shared headphones.
Hmm.
And then because I don't like to disrupt our household. Like our house is like nice and calm and quiet. And when I'm shmupping, my buttons are loud and I clack.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so I always try to make sure like she's got headphones on and everything's calm and quiet and there's a good time to do it. And so like I'm always like on the most compact possible setup. I've got like my laptop on a stand and I'm like 6 inches away from my screen, or I've got like my Switch like set up on a phone stand in vertical. Like it's always like this super tiny setup. But like when I'm playing and like loving the game and not going for a clear, I'm always playing in Tate.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Just a weird one off, you know.
No, it's no. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like, even though this isn't like a 1cc commentary, it's just a chat. Like, these are the kinds of things I love hearing, because it's like people get to listen to this stuff and they get to, like, just get to know you and get to know like what your living situation is like, what the things you do while playing these games or to play these games, and stuff like that is just as important to me as anything that you're doing in the game. Like, it's all a part of the picture. It's all exciting stuff. So I really appreciate hearing things like that. So yeah, like I'm not really sure. I think that's it in terms of my questions. I suppose we could probably wrap this up. Are there any like final words that you would have for people just getting into the genre, or anyone for that matter, or anything you would like to share to just kind of close things off?
Um, Novice modes are there for a reason. Don't don't let your pride get in the way. Like you don't need to think you're better than a game. You can admit that you're going. It's okay to walk into a game on like bent knee and experience it from the absolute bottom, because that is like I learned that way too late. That you got to use these modes. They're put in there for you who's listening and like doubting how good you can get at the game. Like start there. And I would say, additionally to that, like don't wait to share your opinion.
Absolutely.
The moment that you feel like, no, not even the moment you feel like, the moment that you have made any kind of progress, start talking about it. Whether you're messaging people, like get involved with the community, message people on a Discord, or like tweet about it, and like just get yourself fully into it. Get you as a person and you as a player, like just go ahead and get into it, share, because it's just so valuable. I've also started to just fall in love with people who make like really good like beginner, I shouldn't say really good, any beginner content. Like I
Hmm.
really like it because I wasn't there that long ago,
Yeah.
but I'm already starting to dissipate my connection with that. Like it's been 6 months since I started playing shmup, something like that.
Hmm.
I'm already so disconnected. That was a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
So get out there, get in there.
Yeah, oh, fantastic stuff. Like, I'm really glad you mentioned that because from like there are all sorts of people who will like private message me on Twitter and just being like, "Oh, like I just cleared this for the first time," and like they're not sharing it publicly. They're just they wanted to like they were inspired by videos or whatever, and they just wanted to let me know. And I think that's super cool. But what I do then is then I do post about, I'll tag the person, be like, "Hey, this person just cleared it," because it's like there's kind of that reluctance. They think maybe like they're too new, they're too like their novice clear isn't anything to like be excited about, but it's actually the opposite. It's like that is a huge thing. That is a huge turning point. Like every single little victory you have, every part of your progress, like every part of the journey, like just share it. Like you just go public with it, like share it with the world. Like so I'm really glad you touched on that because I think more people do need to just kind of like dissolve the idea that their victories have no meaning, because that is not the case at all. Like we, like as a community, we want to hear, we want to be a part of that journey with you. We want to know these things and be excited with you. And like, to me, that's stuff to celebrate. So yeah, that's where I will leave off.
That's all I got
Yeah,
then.
awesome. Well, I really enjoyed this chat. Jermanator, thank you so much for being here. I'm really glad we could do this after having it in the works, like just chatting here and there for quite a while is what it feels like. I can't, like, no complaints. Like I just, it was a delight having you on the show. So thank you so much for setting
Dude,
aside the time.
I likewise, man. This is so cool. This is
Yeah.
like not that long ago. I was just I don't want to say I'm still just some dude, but like not that long ago, I was just some guy who had posted an Eschatos video and watched your entire channel's discography in like an afternoon, you know?
Oh my God.
So like it's just crazy to me that like, you know, you're here and like as a person you're equally interested in, you know, what people like me have to say. It's really cool, man. Thank you.
You're very welcome. But yeah, everyone who's been listening or watching or whatever the case is, I really appreciate you tuning in, and feel free to let us know what you think in the comments. Yeah, just like I get that we talked about a lot of things, but like if you want to zero in on something and let us know in the comments, that's always great. I always read comments and respond and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, drop something down below. Have an awesome day, and we will see you next time.
Peace.